So most people think selling is all about talking. The more you say, the more persuasive you are, and the better your pitch sounds, the more you'll actually close. And I'm here to tell you that is flat out wrong. The agents who struggle the most in this business are almost always the ones who do the most talking. They're pitching, they're explaining, they're rattling off benefits and riders and carrier comparisons like they're reading a brochure. And the whole time the prospect is just sitting there waiting for the call to end so they can tell you they need to think about it. The best call I ever had felt like I almost barely said a word. If you guys are new here, I'm Ryan Vallett, your FExpert or final expense expert, and I've actually been grinding in life insurance telesales in just about every niche for over 4 years now. We actually run a free lead agency where you can work from the comfort of your own home. Not only are the systems and leads no cost to you, but we also provide exclusive leads and an essentially unlimited amount of leads in our pool you can dial from on top of them. So if you're serious about joining and becoming a master at telesales over the phone, click the link in the description or just email me and see if we're a good fit. I can promise you it's just a real opportunity and leads that actually close. What I'm going to show you today is 3 things that let your prospects do all the heavy lifting so that by the time you get to the close, they've already sold themselves. We're talking about asking the right questions, active listening that actually changes the direction of the call, tonality, and how the way you say something matters just as much as what you say. Plus, I'll give you a few expert moves that you can start using on your very next call. So let's go ahead and get into it. Unfortunately, this is the thing that most agents never figure out. Pretty much nobody wants to be sold, especially these seniors. They never have and they never will. But here's what they absolutely will do. They will buy when they feel understood. They will buy when the conversation feels like it's about them and not about your commission. They will buy when someone asks them the right question at the right time, and suddenly they're hearing themselves say out loud why they need this. That's not selling, that's guiding. And there's a massive difference between the two. Think about it this way. Have you ever had a conversation where someone asked you something and your answer kind of surprised you? Where you said something, then thought, wow, I didn't realize I felt that strong about that. That's what you're doing on every single call. You're asking questions designed to get your prospect to hear their own reasons in their own words for why they truly need or at least want life insurance. Once they say it out loud, it's no longer your idea, it's theirs. And people don't talk themselves out of their own ideas. So part 1, asking the right questions. And I want to be crystal clear here because this is where most agents get it wrong. There's a big difference between asking questions to gather information and asking questions to create clarity for the prospect. Both matter, but the second one is where the magic actually happens. Early in the call, yes, you're gathering information. How long have they been looking? What's their health situation? What's their budget? That's all important, but the questions that actually move the needle are the ones that make the prospect stop and think about why this matters to them personally. Questions like, so when you filled out the form, what was going on in your life that made you want to look into this? Or has there been something recently that made you realize that you need to have something in place? Those questions open a door. And 9 times out of 10, what walks through that door is the real reason they need coverage. A parent who passed away without anything, a spouse they're worried about leaving behind, a funeral bill that they had to cover out of pocket that they never want their kids to have to go through. That is gold right there. That's the thing you build the rest of the call around. And once you have it, you use it. Not in a manipulative way, but in an honest way. Because if someone tells you their mom passed away 2 years ago and the family had to scramble in order to cover the funeral, and you're sitting there with a product that would have solved that exact problem, it would actually be wrong of you to not bring that back up. So what I'm hearing is that you've already seen firsthand what happens when someone doesn't have something in place, and you want to make sure that your family doesn't go through that same thing. Is that right? Now they're nodding. Now they're saying yes. You didn't push them anywhere. You just reflected back on what they already told you and connected it to what you're offering. Get them saying yes. Prove you were actually listening and watch how the whole energy of the call shifts. Part two, really important, active listening. I don't mean pretending to listen while you're scrolling through your script, waiting for your next line. I mean actually hearing what someone says and letting it change what you do next. This is honestly one of the biggest separators between agents who close consistently and agents who wonder why their conversion rate is stuck. Here's a real example of what bad listening looks like on a call. You ask someone, "How long have you been looking into coverage?" And they say, "About 3 months. Ever since my husband had his heart attack." And you respond with, "Great, and what's your date of birth?" You walked right past one of the most important things they could have told you like it was nothing. That person handed you everything needed to understand why they're on the phone with you, and you asked for their stinking birthday. What active listening looks like is this. They say their husband had a heart attack 3 months ago, and that's what got them thinking. You stop, you acknowledge it. So I'm really sorry to hear that. That must have been a pretty scary time for you and your family. And then you go deeper. Did that kind of change how you both think about making sure things are actually taken care of? Now they're talking. Now they're telling you about the fear, the wake up call, the conversation they had in the hospital about what would happen if things had gone differently. You didn't sell them anything. You just listened and asked more questions. But now you have everything you need in order to guide this call to a close because you understand what they actually care about. Active listening also means hearing what people don't say. If someone is giving you short answers, they're not comfortable yet. If they're volunteering stories and details, they trust you. And if you present all three options and the first thing out of their mouth is, "Let me think about it," that's rarely an objection about price. That's an objection about something earlier in the call that you didn't fully resolve. A truly engaged prospect doesn't need to think about it. They ask questions. So when you hear that phrase right after pricing, just go back, not forward. Totally fair. So I understand, since it's in your budget, is it the amount or did I do something wrong? Usually it's the amount isn't as much as what they wanted, so now you can address it like this. At this point, you just re-explain that they can always increase it, but if you don't get something, it will only get more expensive for less coverage. That's why it's important to not put this off any longer. But if it's not, they will almost always tell you what the real reason is. "I got to talk to my wife," or "I got to pray about it," or "I got to check my budget." From there, you acknowledge, answer, and ask. So part three is tonality. And this one is sneaky because most agents don't even realize that they have a tonality problem until they listen back to their own recordings, and hopefully you're not one of them. If you're not recording your calls and listening to them or having someone else listen to them, start today. Yes, it'll be uncomfortable, but do it anyway. And here's what I mean by tonality. The same sentence can close a deal or kill one depending entirely on how you say it. For example, so if we find something that fits your budget today, is there any reason why you wouldn't want to see if we can get approved? Said with confidence and a slight downward inflection at the end, that's a powerful trial close. Said with an upward lilt at the end, like you're nervous about the answer, now you sound like you're asking permission. And the second your prospect senses that you're not sure about what you're doing, their confidence in you almost evaporates. Confidence in your tonality comes from conviction in what you're selling. I've said it before and I'll keep saying it. If you truly believe that final expense coverage is something this person needs, and it is, because nobody should leave their family with a bill instead of a check, then you will naturally speak with the kind of authority that puts people at ease. You're not pressuring them, you're certain. There's a difference. Pressure pushes people away. Certainty pulls them in. And here's a move on tonality that I use all the time. When someone throws an objection at you, drop your voice slightly and slow down. Don't speed up. Get louder. Don't get defensive. Slow down. Sure, I hear you. And that's exactly why I want to make sure that we look at all of your options before we make any decisions. That statement said slowly and calmly with total confidence, that response alone has saved more calls than I can count because the prospect expected pushback and got calm certainty instead. And calm certainty is disarming. Now, let me tie all three of these together because individually they're good, but when you run all three on the same call, it becomes something else entirely. You open with a real question that gets them talking about why they're on the phone. You listen, really listen, and you use what they tell you to guide the next question. Your tone stays confident, warm, and unhurried the entire time. And somewhere around the middle of the call, something shifts. The prospect stops being guarded and starts opening up. They start telling you things. They start asking you questions. And by the time you get to the close, it doesn't feel like a close. It feels like the natural step in a conversation they were already having with themselves. That's the whole game. Not talking people into things, asking the right questions, listening to the answers, and speaking with enough confidence that they trust you to guide them to the decision they already want to make. So your assignment this week is pick one question you've never asked before on a call. Something that goes a little deeper than you typically normally go. Ask it on every call for the next 5 days. Then listen back to those recordings and notice what opens up. I promise you something will change. Do me a favor, guys. If this helped, smash that like button, subscribe if you're not already, and drop a comment. What's the worst stall objection you've ever heard lately? If you have specific questions, don't be afraid to shoot me an email at rykohaveitall@gmail.com. And remember, the best salespeople aren't the best talkers, they're the best listeners. Master the question, and a close takes care of itself. See you guys in the next one.
Subscribe now to be a Fexpert. Do it.